My name's Lloyd Luther. I've been making music for about 13 years.
In a short time, my fam struggled through life loss, my illness, plus my cousin getting locked up.
Music's become my passion because I felt like I had no voice. In each part of my life, I felt like I had no voice. And I feel like I've been through so much that instead of talking to people when I was younger, I used to just write lyrics. I used to write poetry, I used to write cartoons, I used to draw cartoons, and that was like my first outlet, a way of getting out of things that I was going through. I was born in Brixton. It was a nice upbringing. I mean, when I was a really small kid, I didn't really see much until the end, because when you're a kid, you don't really notice much. But I always remember that I never used to see my dad much. It was like here and there, and there was always arguments, things being thrown. A lot of stuff used to go on like that, and my dad was involved in some things. I don't know what, kind of the ins and outs of it, but the relationship didn't work between him and my mom, putting it lightly. And it got to a point where my mom was just like, I have to kind of pack up and go. And the women's refuge was kind of like a halfway house. The women's refuge was in Chelsea, a really nice place. It was full of women whose partners were kind of after him in those ways. What I remember about the women's refuge is that nearly every other night there was police there, and there was men trying to get into the women's refuge. Like, it was crazy. They used to put all the kids upstairs, so we were all upstairs, and they just said, stay in here. And then there used to be just men all the time, trying to get to these women. And obviously there was a lot of women who'd suffered rape, domestic abuse in there. And yeah, we spent close to a year there. There was a whole court case that went through where my dad was trying to fight for custody. I really don't know why, because once he got a part of that custody, he never used it anyway. I think it was just spitefulness to my mom. And there was an injunction against him for him not to come near us until we reached a certain age. And once we reached that age, we reached out to him. I think my brother went first, and he kind of came back and told me it's not worth it. But as a young kid, I was just pining for a father figure. So I think after a few years, it affected my brother in certain ways. He went off and done certain things, and I tried to re-establish a relationship with him, and it just didn't work. So I feel like with that situation, you have to let go of a lot. To get over that, you have to let go of what someone's done to you. And I feel like I can talk to him now, but only because I've let go of what's gone on. And when I talk to him now, it's not a relationship. It's talking to that friend that you spoke to 5 years ago again. It's not deep. We don't talk about the past. It's very just on one level. And he's with the rest of my brothers and sisters, he's kind of like that as well, because I have a lot of half brothers and sisters, and he's kind of like that with my brother as well. But it makes you appreciate your mom a lot. When I moved to Leicester, I was going through a lot of racism. I was living in Highfields, and I moved to a place called Netherall, where there was a lot of National Front and Combat 18, and me and my brother used to we used to go down Monksrest Park, and we used to get there was one time when I got beat up by a few white guys and all of this stuff. I never used to be able to tell my mom, because my mom was in a position where we had to be there, and that was where we moved, innit? So I feel like if I feel like those stories I could write about in my rhymes and not have to tell anyone, and it was like my little secret, my little diary. And I think that's what it was for me. Music was an expression of frustration, of not able to tell anyone my problems.
Like black guys like you should be on grease or preparing trees, but they're just avatars. Insecure guys who think they're hard because they have a bar, but they're like a reservoir. I see few like a sea view, and I see few guys who are that bright, so I don't call them stars. My uncle said you got character that you can't buy. I go from stressing to a blessing, then I realise my generation's full of real lies, living for the likes. It's enough to turn you should night. Many try it by saying UG's just a conscious guy till they see I got more sharp sides than Swiss Army knives.
When you're about to get on stage, it feels like you're going into oblivion. Like you don't know, especially like if there's a lot of people there and you're performing to a crowd that have not heard your music or anything like that. I recently just done something with Doc Brown, and that is exactly how I felt. Like I was just like, none of these guys have really heard my music. They've heard one track, No Signal, and they haven't heard nothing else. So when I got on stage, I was just like, you feel so nervous, and I feel like you're about to get on a roller coaster. That's what it feels like. And when you kind of come off the stage, it's kind of like when you come off a roller coaster, you want to do it again, because it's like the adrenaline rush is amazing. And when you hear people, if you're at a concert where they actually know the lyrics to your songs, it's so nice to hear someone show that love for the lyrics and the music and stuff like that. And it gives meaning to what you do. Like you've affected someone else's life, and it's kind of that mixed with the roller coaster feeling. It's like love and adrenaline at the same time. It's a beautiful thing. I think I chose to go down the more like, I call it the more realistic route rather than the commercial, because I feel like with commercial you write what is popular and you write towards that market, but you don't write what they need. You don't kind of look to the future either. I feel like pop music is just for here and now. That's why a lot of artists just write for here and now, and their music gets forgotten. So like when I was like thinking about doing music, I thought it's got to be something that I can connect with, for me to actually perform it to people and then for them to connect with it. And it was kind of outside influences as well. Like a lot of the artists that I listened to, they kind of didn't go down the commercial route. I listened to commercial music, but as I got older, I kind of drifted off to different types of music, rather outside of hip hop as well. So I think that added to it as well. But I think from a moral standpoint, or from a commercial standpoint, I feel like it doesn't tell the full picture. It doesn't elaborate. And I feel like commercial music is just straight down the line, and it's for a moment, but it's not for all time. Like I feel like when you make something legendary, like it's for all time. Someone could listen to it 2,000 years from now and it will take them back to that moment. One thing that I saw the other day is that when a guy called Stevie Wonder released Inner Visions, at that point in time, people really did not like that album. But as it went on in the future, it's considered one of his best albums. It's considered one of the great albums. And I think that just shows what I'm trying to say. It's like, you might not be writing music for now, but you're writing music forever. And it kind of represents you forever, what you stand for. And if you're making music which is not your values, it's kind of coming from someone else, whether it's the record company telling you to write that, or you're doing it for sales. It's coming from somewhere else. It's not coming from your heart. And I feel like for it to sit in time and to actually give someone something extra in their life that they haven't got, it needs to come from you. It needs to be purely from you, because no one can tell your story like you can. And if you tell your story or tell a corporate boss's story, then it's not going to be your story. and I don't think you add anything to the industry. But that's just my personal view. I just feel like if I went down the commercial route, I'd just be another one in the queue or the line to money, but to ultimately be forgotten. I was diagnosed with Crohn's about 4 years ago, and I think the first time I went into hospital, it was kind of really scary. I mean, I got rushed in one night. I had 2 weeks off work, and after those 2 weeks, I was just in my bed for 2 weeks. I got rushed to hospital because one of the symptoms of Crohn's is that you lose a lot of blood. So I'd lost so much blood that they said you had almost like half of your your blood capacity in your body. So it was really like a hard time. I felt really weak, and I didn't really know what Crohn's was. And when I went into hospital, they kind of put you in a side room because obviously they don't know. They didn't know what it was. They didn't know if it was cancer or if it was a viral disease or anything like that. So they put you into a side room, and some of the medication that they give you, it can affect you in different ways, and they don't know how it will affect you. But if you can imagine this, like, you're away from everyone, you get really bad migraines, and in that room it gave me a lot of time to think. I mean, if you've ever been in hospital, you'll know that there's long periods of time when you're just waiting for things to happen. Like, the doctors only come round at one time in the day at 11 o'clock, and after that you're just waiting for the next day for them to come round so they can tell you more information about what's going on. So in between that time, if no one comes to visit you, you're kind of left with your own thoughts. And in a room like that, where there's just not much going on, you really sink deep into yourself, and you really start to analyze your life. And a lot of the stuff that I analyzed is before the first time that I went into hospital, I never really made music much. Like, I think I made like a few tracks, but I always used to keep it on my computer. I never used to really show it people. I went years doing that, and I feel like when I was in that room, it kind of made me think like I'm not indestructible. Because I feel like when you grow up, you think that you're indestructible, and you kind of think that you just next week, you put things off. But when you're in that situation, you know how it feels. Like, you don't know what they're going to tell you. You don't know if it's permanently damaged you. You don't know whether as a young guy you're going to have a stoma bag or anything like that. So you start thinking about things that you should have been doing before you came in there. Like, the way you should have treated people, the way that you should have handled situations. It's mad, because I don't think a lot of people get that chance to do that, to have that self-realization. So in many ways, I was thankful for it. Staring at four walls, I was thankful for it. And to go through that twice as well, it's like it imprints the message inside of you. Like, you kind of get used to yourself. You become kind of one with yourself and one with your imperfections, and you become very accepting of life. You kind of accept you're not going to be here for a long time. And I feel like that's powerful, because when you feel like you're going to be here forever, and you've got to get that car, or you've got to get these clothes, or you've got to have this certain amount of money, or this, then I feel like you're a slave to it. But when you have those realizations, like, I wouldn't call it I'd call it was a near death sort of experience, but it was kind of like, when you stare something in the face like that, where you don't know what's going to happen to you, you realize that you're nothing. you're just a speck. So you think about, what are you gonna offer people? You become really selfless. Like, what am I gonna offer people? What is my position here on this planet? In this world, how am I gonna better my life and others? Like, you kind of lose that sense of, I need to be on top, I need to get where I'm going. You kind of get the sense of, like, I need to do as much for other people before I go, because you're not here for long. It's just been up since then, and I feel like it was after that realization in the hospital, it was kind of like, yeah, okay, this is what I need to do. I need to be real with myself. I need to be real with my experiences. I need to be real with everything, and I need to add a bit of me in there. Like, I've always been someone who really I don't care about fitting into that popular crowd sort of thing. So I thought, what's the best way to kind of just be left field as possible? And like, because I did receive a lot of racism when I was younger, I just thought, let me just dress as a gollywog. Like, my mum had like a gollywog doll, and I kind of asked her about it, and she told me like the history on it, and I just thought, let's just do that. So I did make the track Gollywog quite a while back, and I kind of redid it to make it more potent, because I felt like I was still holding back. So I thought, nah, let me just go full out. Let me just tell it how it is. And shocking. I wanted something really shocking, and something that really kind of went with the whole performance of what I think black people need to do when they're rapping. Like, they kind of perform for people who are not in the same classes, or probably don't understand the background. And if you know about minstrels, it kind of all linked in with that. And I felt like when that came out, it probably didn't get as much views as other tracks did, because I feel like people watched it once and it kind of just stopped with them. And they but I've had such good feedback, and it kind of started the snowball like moving for me to like release other stuff. That was the first video I did with the Conspirators, and they kind of just took my ideas and just made them and visualized them, and it made me just want to write more from that point. So I just wrote so much.
I'm in the studio like it's unavoidable, like coffin closed, or the moment your soul goes and your coffin's closed. They're like, bro, you're about to blow. If they don't know yet, they will know. You're a legend cold, capable of anything, so they fret like strumming notes. Don't need to beg for beats like she don't want to know. They say I'm ready for that Charlie show. I said I know, go and tell him I got cold, but that stuff he knows.
Give life your all. Give it 100%. Give it like 2,000,000%. I feel like when I was younger, or when you are younger, you kind of just think that you're gonna live forever, and you kind of think that things are just gonna come to you. I feel like if you give 100% in everything that you do, you'll get everything that you want to get out of life. But I feel like another thing as well is don't wait for things to happen, because you're never ready for anything. Like, people always wait for stuff to happen, and I feel like in life you can't do that. You've got to always do stuff before you're ready, because you're never going to be ready.